Well, in general, when open interest is rising as price is falling, that's a pretty good sign that the hedge funds are getting short. And if you look at it from the bigger picture, as long as I've done this and tracked this, the banks win and the hedge funds lose. Okay, so as price is going up, oftentimes hedge funds are looking for long exposure and the banks gleefully sell it to them. And then when momentum eventually wanes, and how many hedge funds are there in the world that buy silver futures? There's not that many. Okay. So eventually they're all long and positioned, and all of a sudden momentum runs out and the price tips over, and then banks help give it a shove. And then those same speculators and hedge funds that were buying silver futures all of a sudden start selling, start getting stopped out, technical factors start working against them. And the banks start covering and buying back all those shorts. And it's just this cycle, the Andy McGuire used to, like a shampoo bottle, the wash and then you rinse and then you repeat and then you wash and you rinse and repeat. So anyway, so back to your question. If open interest is rising while price is falling, it generally means that the large speculators in silver, the hedge funds, are getting short. And in fact, you can actually see that in last week's COT report. I've got it right over here. I'm just going to grab it. I keep all these hard copies just so I never lose it. The large speculator category in silver, which is mainly hedge funds, added 12,051 new gross shorts. So they went from 28,000 to 40,000. So what's that? That's almost a 50% increase. Okay. So that's a pretty clear sign of, bearish sentiment on the speculator side. And then, of course, the banks are just taking the other side. They're taking the long side, the opposite trade, when the speculator's getting short. And so it's just kind of an ebb and flow until the system finally changes. If the speculators get overly long, price is going to start getting a little heavy. That happened about 6 weeks ago by my measurements. And now we're back to the point where the speculators are not quite flat yet, but pretty close. What are on the CFTC reports, they call them the swap dealing banks. What are swaps, right? They're derivatives, options, futures. Who deals the derivatives? The banks, the bullion banks. So when you see the swap dealers on the CFTC reports, they're talking about the bank positioning. And after being about 20,000 contracts short a month ago, they're now net long. So there are a number of things that combine that were probably very close to a low. And actually, silver has responded pretty well the last couple of days. And one thing I'd add, Chris, when all this tipped over about a month ago, and it was just a month ago, the Monday after Easter, that silver was pushing toward 27 and gold was briefly over 2,000 and everybody was all excited. That was 4 weeks ago, like today. It was just that long ago that things looked pretty good, right? And everybody was long and excited. And then you see what happened next. Well, what happened on the way down is silver broke down first. Silver broke down through its 50-day moving average while gold and the shares were still above theirs. And it was going to either silver had to return around or gold and the shares are going to follow it down. They did. And then silver took out its 200-day and gold and the shares then eventually followed along a couple of days later. Well, anyway, silver started to look better. Back on Friday, gold was down $20 or something on Friday, but silver was up. Gold's back up $5 or $6. We record this here on Monday, and silver's up 50 some odd cents. So we'll see. Maybe that's now a trend in the right direction. And just as you can follow the ebbs and flows and know that, okay, it looks like the speculators are kind of going to run out of buying momentum and price is going to tip over, you can also see where the speculator is going to run out of selling momentum too, and price comes back. I mean, it's kind of how this all rolls and how it has always rolled for as long as I followed it. Yeah. And, you think back, you mentioned the 16 days in a row, it got to 17 out of 18. And now we've been up 2 days in a row, 3 days out of 4, Chris. Wow. But anyway, there was one previous time that I can ever remember that being that bad in the last 12 years. It was this time of the year in 2017. And silver actually went down 18 days in a row, 18 red candles in a row. Now, I mean, it was like you and me and a handful of other masochists that were actually still paying attention in 2017 because we'd been wandering in the wilderness for 5 or 6 years at that point. And price was already so low. I think it went from 1950 to 16, maybe over the course of those 18 days, but it went down 18 days in a row. And the daily momentum indicator, the relative strength index, got to an extremely oversold level of 18. And we always used to joke on my site that if your losing streak matches your RSI, it's probably a good time to buy. So Late last week, I think the RSI bottomed at like 20. I mean, it just get to a point. I mean, it's not a whole lot more complicated than you get to a point where you've either got more sellers than buyers or more buyers than sellers. And that's probably where we got to last week. We'll see. You mentioned getting above 30, and anybody can look at a weekly chart and the consolidation that silver's been in for almost 2 years now between 22 and 28. We've tried a couple times to break up above 28. Looked like kind of a false breakout. We've tried a couple times to break down below 22 and looked like a false breakdown. Let's watch silver, as I said, for how the shares and gold might be doing. But let's watch silver this week in particular to see if it can get back above 22 on a closing basis on Friday, because then you'll have this kind of like maybe a false breakdown. So anyway, there's a lot going on. Certainly time to be watching it closely.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information, and it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race. You're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Marco Stan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Marco Stan.